Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana weather. Lots to talk about tonight. It's about 10:50 p.m. and I'm a little late. I'm being kind of a night owl tonight. I'm usually not up this late. But lots to talk about in our video update tonight to prepare you for the latest on the severe weather this weekend. So first off, we'll start off with this. Flood watch has been issued for the entire area. In fact, pretty much all of the major rivers are now underneath of a flood warning. So the White River and Patoka River and some other things like that. Pretty much all, as I say, all of those big rivers are underneath of a flood warning now. Flood watch for the entire area, and we've got plenty of rain coming, which is going to be concerning to us. A good 2 to 3, maybe even 4 and 5 inches in localized parts could be coming our way. But along with that will also come the potential for some severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center has placed us under a slight risk for severe weather on Saturday, and the next update for that will come at 1 a.m. when we're all asleep, or many of us anyway. And so I'll have that out to you in the morning. But as it stands right now, we are still underneath of a slight risk for severe weather. Now, we are actually in an upper end slight risk. If I just throw on the 30% hatch, you can see some of us are in that 30% hatch. Everything that you see in yellow here is the 15% hatch. The red becomes the 30% hatch. And, of course, the black that you see down here, this is an area of significant severe weather, and basically that's at least a 10% shot or more. I've seen a very significant tornado threat, and so that's what's looming down to our south, but thankfully not in our area. And this actually may work in our favor, because if we end up with a squall line, as I'll show you on future radar here in a moment, it's iffy as to whether we're going to get this squall line or not. Some radars say yes, some radars don't organize it as well as others. It's going to be largely dependent, I think, on what goes on down here. If we're into a major tornadic outbreak with a squall line down here, that may suck the life out of what could develop our way. So we'll see, and we'll see where the Storm Prediction Center keeps us for the next update. But for now, at least parts of us are in this 30% risk zone for severe weather. As you can see, Orange and Crawford and DuBois, Pike, and cuts down through Gibson, and really Lawrence, Martin, Davies, and Knox here are up in just the 15% risk zone for now. But don't take this as just complete gospel truth. The reality is, whether you're in the 15 or the 30%, whenever you're that much on the border, it really just doesn't matter. The point being, they have to arbitrarily cut off somewhere. So pretty much the entire area at this point underneath of an upper end slight risk is how I would word this at this point. And we will actually just take a look at the data and see what we can find with it. Regional radar right now here again is about 10:50 at night, and you can see a line of thunderstorms starting to cross here into southern Indiana. This is the actual cold front. Now the cold front is in essence, let me just sort of draw it on here for you. It's sort of situated somewhere down like this, and basically what it's going to do is stall out. And so rather than becoming more of a cold front, we're going to see it end up as more of a stationary front type of things. And this may push its way through just a little bit more, but then through the morning hours tomorrow, it's going to start to lift back this way a little bit. And so by stationary, I mean here within 50 miles or so, one way or the other, is going to be lifting back and forth. This is going to be the focus, by the way, for just an absolute train of moisture that's going to be coming up. Now the actual low pressure that's the troublemaker is situated right down here at the moment, kind of on the Texas-Mexico border. That's going to eventually ride up this cold front and provide us the energy that we're going to need for a pretty significant severe weather outbreak down here, and potentially a severe weather event up here. I wouldn't call it an outbreak really at this point. But a few warnings are possible out of this. We'll just have to see. Biggest threat to me, I think, is still the heavy flooding. So let's time this out, and here's what the Euro model says about it. Again, here's that low pressure down in Texas. You can see the heavy rains associated with this moving over us. Here we are by Sunday morning, and the vast majority of it has gone through, according to the Euro model, and then we will dry out through the rest of the day. Then we have some other disturbances to look at through the week. Here is later on, potentially on Thursday, we got another little shot at some snow coming through then. This looks like a very minor clipper system, so maybe an inch or two at most with these type of systems. And a little too far out to really talk about this much in depth, but know that there are some snow chances still in the forecast. And then beyond that, we're watching one potentially for a New Year's Eve or right around that same time frame as well. We'll just have to see how it goes. Let's take a look at some future radar so that we can get an idea on timing for this and show you how everything's going to pan out. Now, I posted a few of these on my Facebook page earlier today, Southern Indiana Weather, and I want you to notice that it's actually sped up a little bit. The line, the one that I posted earlier today, the line was about to the Wabash River around, say, 4 p.m. or so, and it's actually speeding up a little bit later. But here you go. Let's just back this up and talk about it. Here we are pretty much where we're at during this time frame. Here's the overnight hours. You can see the deluge of rain coming upon us early in the morning. Here's 8 a.m. on Saturday. And it rains for a good long time without a whole lot of breaks. Maybe a few breaks in action, but a little bit of a break in the action around 3 o'clock or so here in the afternoon, potentially. But then the line starts to set up to our west, and you can see really it's about 7 o'clock here Eastern time, and the line is just starting to get to the river. And this doesn't look as impressive of a line as it did earlier in the day. So could that be? That would certainly be a good thing if that pans out the way it is, but we'll just have to see that. The earlier models had this coming in around 4 p.m., so really anywhere from 4 to 7 p.m. We're going to have to fine-tune that tomorrow, to be completely honest with you. And then, of course, the squall line, or at least the heavy rain, depending on how it sets up, moves through us, and then finally, into the overnight hours, we start to dry out some. So by the time we're waking up on Sunday morning, it looks like it's pretty much gone out of the way. But you notice this 32-degree line, freezing line, moves ever so closer to us. Temperatures are actually going to fall throughout the day on Sunday. A couple of more future radar views for you. This is the NMM. This is the, by the way, this was the high-resolution NAM that I was showing you, and it's the one I commonly show you the most. The NMM is an okay model. It doesn't handle things the greatest, but here we are in Indiana up here. I want to give you at least a different view. We'll go throughout the day on this. Here we come into the overnight hours on Saturday, and you see that rain coming towards us. Notice this sets up a little bit of a pretty decent squall line down here, but notice it's just heavy rain for us. I don't see anything overly severe on this. And I had a question earlier on Facebook tonight. Does the red indicate severe? Well, yes and no. This is actually a reflectivity product, so it indicates heavy rain. But your severe usually comes in with the highest reds, because that's where you're going to find your hailstones and things like that are going to be in the highest reds. So it can indicate severe. And certainly if what you're seeing is just some greens and some yellows like that, it doesn't look as impressive. Yeah, we'll just have to see. This I can say this much for it. The radar shot on this doesn't look as impressive for us, and really it's not until later on Saturday, and here we are at really about 6 p.m. But the line that it's starting to organize is pretty much past us by that point, and then it moves out. Now, the ARW, the final model I want to show you, is quite a lot different from this. So let's just sort of back this up, and well, let me refresh the page again. This you've seen them. If you've seen me do videos before, you know this page kind of has its fits on this. So we'll go through this. Here we are on Friday. Here's the early hours on Saturday morning. Here's 4 a.m. You can see this is a little higher resolution radar, and you got the deluge of rain. Here we are, and here we are about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. Decent squall line setting up to our south down here, but pretty much just heavy rain for us at the time. We'll continue to put this into motion, and you notice that squall line takes better shape. Here we are by about 6 o'clock at night. Very strong squall line down to our south, just starting maybe to take shape and starting to push to the northeast here into Indiana. And so this is iffy. It does this, you can see it, whenever you see this very narrow band like this, this is whenever you start to get a concerning look to it on radar, rather than a very broad area of heavy rain, such as what you see on the 4-kilometer NAM, the high-resolution NAM over here. When you get this narrow look to it, you start to get a little bit more of a concern. So again, it's going to be very hard to determine whether this will really happen or not. It's just something that we're going to have to wait and see whether it pans out or not. But that gives us an idea on timing. It looks like really 4, 5, 6 p.m. or after before we start to see anything severe potentially into our area from the way things look right now. As we take a look at the parameters, instability is always one of those concerns. Here we're looking at our CAPE product, stands for Convective Available Potential Energy. Remember, this is just a measure of the potential energy that a storm has to work with to become severe. And basically what you see here is very limited instability. The first blue here is about 150 units. That's more than enough to create some severe weather in the wintertime. By the way, tomorrow at 12 noon and some change is the official start of winter. Kind of ironic that we're looking at potentially for some severe weather, isn't it? But you don't need a whole lot of instability here in the wintertime to create that severe weather threat, but you do need some pretty well. And what you see is next to nothing over our area, and really 150 units would be enough, but it doesn't spread very far north to us. So we will have to watch that. If we end up with no breaks in the rain, that should pretty much cut off the severe weather. If we get some breaks in the rain and the sun pokes through, maybe even for just ever so slightly, could be. It's something we're going to have to see. We'll take a look at the jet stream data here, and we've certainly, as we've noted throughout many of these videos, we've got the upper level wind energy to work with. Here we are in Indiana right here, and you can see a good 80, 90 knot upper level winds over us. We go down a little further into the atmosphere. Well, let me go to 500 millibars. That's where I was intending to go. This is about 18,000 feet up into the atmosphere. Excuse me. And what you've got here is a good 70 to 80 knots, even some 90 knot winds. Point being, as you go through all these, plenty of wind energy to work with. Here's a low-level jet, and we're talking a 60 to 70 knot low-level jet. So winds are going to be whipping. This is about 4 or 5,000 feet up into the atmosphere. So you just look up at the clouds tomorrow and you see they're fast moving. That's the influence of the low-level jet that you're seeing right here. But again, with the limited instability, this wind energy may not be of much use to us. It just may move the system in and out pretty quickly, and that's about all that we can say about that. If we can get enough instability to tap into these winds, I could see a few warnings, but again, I think the biggest outbreak will be down to the south. Let's talk about the rain real quick, because that's, I think, going to be the biggest story. Large hail doesn't look overly concerning to me. Tornado threat looks very low to me around here. You can never rule those out with severe weather, but it looks extremely low to me. The lowest it can possibly get anyway. And then damaging winds. Yeah, we might have some warnings come up, but it's probably going to be for a 60 mile per hour gust, not 70 or 80 mile per hour gust. And I don't suspect every county would go underneath of a warning. I don't think you're going to see blanket warnings up and down the squall line. Could be wrong on that, but I think it's going to be more of an isolated threat around here. I think the biggest is going to stay to the south. What is going to be the bigger threat, and what will come up often, probably will be flash flood warnings. Because as you can see from the GFS model, you're looking at anywhere from 4, and then here you go up into this is 5 inches of rain. And you combine that with full streams already from the snow that is melted, and that's a recipe for a disaster in low-lying areas. Now, the Euro model is not quite as aggressive with the rainfall totals, but here you got 3.4 inches in Evansville, 3.5 here in Huntingburg, 4.2 in Bloomington, around 4 up here in Vincennes, about 2.5 to 3 in the Louisville area, 3.5 up here in Columbus. So you get the idea that it is still, whether you're looking at 3, 3.5, or whether you're looking at 5, that's a heck of a lot of rain any way you word it. So it's going to be a wet weekend, as you can see from everything. And my gut tells me that even though we're under the slight risk for severe weather, flooding is probably going to be the biggest threat as I see it for right now. But I will update, of course, more in the morning on this, maybe even another video if it becomes necessitated. We'll just have to see where it goes. Go to southernindianaweather.com. You can see the 7-day forecast. I believe we're going to 61 for a high tomorrow. Again, a slight chance of severe weather, strong to severe thunderstorms possible. Again, we'll just have to see, but the flooding rain is the biggest. Our high is only 50, and that's reached very early on Sunday, falling temperatures throughout the day. Chance of showers early, but that'll clear out, and then it's just the bottom falls out. Only 33 on Monday, 27 on Tuesday, and then a warming trend a little bit later in the week before we may have some snow showers to deal with on Thursday night. Into Friday, I haven't got it in here yet, but I'll probably write that in if the models continue that up. We'll see how it goes. More updates to come. Stay tuned right here to Southern Indiana Weather, and I'll keep it I'll keep you updated with the latest. Take care.